Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. We are talking about Hurricane Isaias right now, and boy, this is tough. It really is. So let's just get right to it, shall we? This is the first of what will probably be 2 updates today. I will do another one this evening, and we'll go over a few things then as well. A very changeable and fluid situation, to say the least. So let's start off with a look at the satellite imagery, and this is very telling. We have a hurricane out here, not extremely well defined, that's for sure. We don't have a very discernible eye in the visible satellite animation, but what we do have is very telling, and that is, and let's just stop it here on the last frame, these yellow speckles that we see all through here. I thought that I said stop. Thank you. These yellow speckles that we have all through here, that's lightning, all right? And that is lightning near, especially right there, that's near the center, near the core, if you will. And that, to me, is a sign of intensification. Lots and lots of updrafts going on there, these hot towers, as they are called. Very deep, strong upward motion there, thunderstorms, rising motion. And that generates this friction, and there's ice crystals in the atmosphere, and you get lightning. You know, when you see lightning kind of out here in the bands or something, like look over here, there's a few yellow speckles there. Well, those are different thunderstorms out on the periphery, and we see that from time to time. But when you see lightning near the center, that is usually a sign of intensification, and I think that's what we're starting to see. Recon went in recently, and I do believe that the pressure was down a little bit. Let's put this back into motion, and then I'll actually go to the Hurricane Center homepage just to confirm that. A couple of other things to note. The outflow is really, really well established over on most of the quadrants, a little bit restricted down here. But you also have some pretty tall mountains. They don't extend up to the outflow level. But once it gets away more from Cuba here, then I think in this vicinity up towards possibly Florida, we could see some intensification with this, and that is why the hurricane watches have gone up, and we'll look at that right now, in fact, on the Hurricane Center homepage. So the latest pressure, yes, down to about 991 millibars. It was up a little bit earlier this morning, and the top wind that's been measured by the recon is 75 miles per hour. Hurricane hunters find that Isaias is getting better organized. And by the way, if you want to know how to say this easily, I finally figured it out. Instead of just calling it Isaias, it's kind of the Portuguese version, Isaias. So instead of Isaias, it's Isaias, right? Roughly. That might not be perfect, but there you go. So here's the watch warning information, and I believe, and I mean it just goes without saying, that these hurricane watches here will be replaced by hurricane warnings at some point. The new data coming in is suggesting that this could make landfall in Florida. But will it? That's the question. Here's a radar animation. This is really cool. This is a Bahamas composite. And you can really see that northern part of the core there starting to develop, banding around kind of an eye wall there. And once this pulls more significantly away from Cuba, which does have some relief down here, that's what you call mountains. It's not just flat. It's more flat over on this side. There's some pretty tall mountains, and that's probably restricting the inflow that's coming in just a little bit. So as this pulls away, and this core gets up here closer to the Bahamas, especially, what is this, Andros Island, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not mistaken. And I believe it is. And is able to feel this high upper ocean heat content better and pull in better inflow. This could tighten up and start to intensify. Maybe we see 85, 90 miles per hour, and then starting to get into range of Miami radar as we go forward. So you folks here in the Bahamas, these different islands through here, you're going to have the impacts from this, especially, I would say, up here towards Freeport and Grand Bahama, as this tracks up your way. And then it's just a matter of when does this turn. All right, that is a very, very big question here. And a part of this is related to the intensity. We talked about this a couple of days ago with Jack Sillen from the weathermodels.com site, weather.us. Remember Jack? If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. Why does intensity oftentimes help to not necessarily dictate the track, but the two are related to each other? In this situation, a shallower, less filled out storm in the atmosphere, hurricane, that's going to go more west, steered by different layers of the atmosphere related to the big Bermuda high that's sitting out here. And I'm just going to kind of draw this in, approximating it. Okay, it would be steered more by the lower level flow and kind of going into Florida. But there's a trough coming over here eventually that's going to create this alleyway that Jack and I talked about a few days ago. And to feel that alleyway more, because that starts at different levels of the atmosphere, both the pressure field and the overall size of the hurricane filling into the atmosphere and feeling that weakness, it's kind of like a magnet. Okay? If you have a very strong magnet, if this is your really strong magnet up through here, and the hurricane is a small piece of metal, it doesn't feel that magnet as much as if the hurricane was a larger piece of metal and the magnet starts to tug on it more. That's one way to look at it. So the intensity here is going to be related to where this ends up, I do believe. It makes sense. Because what we don't have, for example, it's not like the high is sitting up here and the hurricane is moving due west south of that ridge like Andrew, as an example. Okay, we've seen this before. Gene in 2004, it kind of danced around and then it came on back west. This is different. This is coming around the back side of the subtropical ridge because that trough is going to dig in and try to change the steering pattern. Where that change happens determines where this ends up. And we're going to get into that more in just a moment. First of all, real quick, talking about impacts here, I got an email from one of our Patreon supporters. Got a family member down there in Baracoa on the north side there, not far from Guantanamo, north side of the eastern part of the Cuban Peninsula down there. We call him Island Kid. This is his email. And I guess that's Orestes, something like that. Trying to get it right. And I appreciate you sending that to me. It says a family member confirmed 19-foot waves in Baracoa, northern part of Guantanamo, Cuba, with 71-mile-per-hour gusts. And you know, they had some squalls coming across there. And this is what some of that damage looked like. This is what he sent me. These are from some of the high waves that were down there, busting up the coast a little bit. So there you go. Already some impacts. And you know, the power of water is very strong. I appreciate him sending this to me. We wish you guys well. It's you know, it's a different world down there. You don't have, in many cases, the building structures that we do in mainly the United States. And large waves come in like that, and you can have some big problems. So I appreciate you sending that to me, buddy. One of the nice things we have with our crowdfunding folks is that interaction. So thank you. And we're going to have more impacts like that. I'll talk about that. The high waves, the surf. We're going to get into that in just a moment here. So what about the modeling here? So let me just preface this. I believe, and I was talking to some of our other supporters that we have a very special chat just for our crowdfunding group. I cannot have a public chat because that would just go crazy, as you can imagine. It would be, you know, an unmitigated mess. You know how social media is already. So anyway, we have this private chat just for our supporters, and we were all talking, and you get this idea of consensus. All right? And I talk about this in modeling and elsewhere with ensembles. You ask one person their opinion on something, and you get a very black and white answer. You ask a whole group of people their opinion about something, and it can be very factual based, and it can be completely subjective where people have true thoughts and opinions. We try to stick to the science using our experiences, and the consensus was, and this is very important, and we'll see if we're all onto something or if we're all just full of hot air. Seriously, though, I think this could be fascinating. The models are initialized at 12 UTC, which is 8 a.m. this morning. That is when the 12Z guidance gets initialized, that we're seeing the output from now in the afternoon. The GFS comes out, the Euro comes out last, UK Met comes out. Those are all the 12Z models. They're run, in many cases, 4 times a day. All right? The major synoptic times are 12Z and 0Z, right? And that is the 2 biggest times for the most part. Weather balloons launched all over the world. You have 18Z and 6Z in between, but the 12Z and the UT and the 0Z model runs are usually your 2 most robust runs. This was initialized at 12 UTC, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. What was happening with the hurricane at that time? It was disheveled, wasn't it? Yes, pressure was up. The wind had come down. It was having some struggles. The models took a snapshot of that, assimilated that data. That's your input. What's happening right now? I just showed you. The lightning, the core developing. The models don't know that yet. The 0Z initialization should pick up on that. So keep that in mind as we go through what we're about to go through here. All right? The models don't know that this is starting to get better organized. Okay? They don't know that headline from the National Hurricane Center. It may or may not matter, but maybe it does. And let me just show you an example here. This is the 850 millibar level of the atmosphere, but let's look at the surface, mean sea level pressure. Wait, sorry, let's see if I can get it to pop up. I'm much better at this with the... all right, here you go. So this shows it at 1,000 millibars. All right? The initialization at 8 o'clock this morning. So that was probably pretty close to accurate, a little bit weaker than it actually was. All right, so it shows 1,000 millibars there at 8 o'clock this morning. So let's move this ahead. Unfortunately, on this version of the Euro, I don't have the increments of, the advantage of every hour. I probably should get on weather models and subscribe and show you that. But let's move it out 24 hours, all right? This shows it, and let's zoom in here so you can see it. 24 hours out, 8 a.m. tomorrow, and this is what I'm talking about. The Euro says 995 right there, and that is 995. That's what it's showing for tomorrow. Now, the Euro is not an intensity model. I understand that. What is the pressure right now? It is down to 991 already. So it doesn't know that. And I don't know if that makes a big difference or not, but that's just something to throw out there to keep in mind just in case. All right? So let's, we'll just stick to this model field. That's fine. This is the 850 millibar wind. So this is the winds at 5,000 feet. And then your sea level pressure, MSLP, the mean sea level pressure. This is fine. This is a good enough layer to show. We'll deviate from my standard 850 millibar vorticity field, whatever. So let's move it ahead. This was the initial. There's 8 a.m. tomorrow. Another 24 hours out. This would be 8 a.m. on Sunday. It's at 1,001 millibars in Florida. I have a very hard time believing that if it's 991 now, that it's going to rise 10 millibars, okay? I may not be a math whiz, but I know that between here and Florida. Why would it do that? It's not going to be, it's already organizing right in front of our eyes. So some pretty dramatic weakening to shave off 10 millibars is going to have to take place. All right? So I'm just saying, that's kind of weird. All right? So let's just move this along. This will be valid on Monday. And it's inland. It's just going right up Florida and up into the Carolinas there at 5,000 feet. You would have some tropical storm force winds, maybe some down at the surface. But this is not a very big problem at all. It's impactful. Yes, it comes up, kind of does this. Yes, this is impactful. We're not going to dismiss that. But this is not what we were looking at yesterday. the chance of a strong hurricane coming into the southeast. This isn't that. Does that mean this is what's going to happen? If I knew that, I would be not only a very wealthy person, but I would also be able to really help a lot of people, to put anxiety and fear and preparation, everything we just don't know. All right, seriously. And if I knew, I would graciously tell you, even if it meant skipping the wealthy part, I would. I want to help people. I want to make a living, but whatever, you get the idea. I don't know if this is what's going to happen. But again, I'm intrigued at what I see on radar, on satellite, etc. What about the GFS? This again is the vorticity signature. And you know what? Let's just keep things, let's keep things on the same playing field. So we'll look at the same zone of the atmosphere, mean sea level pressure, and the 5,000 foot wind, just as we did with the Euro. So same thing, it initialized at 1,001. Now this does give us the advantage of every 3 hours. So here we are. This is a great example. This is valid right now as I'm recording this roughly at 18Z. That's when this is valid today. And it shows 995. Nope. It's about 4 millibars too weak. All right. You keep on going out in time, 994, and it approaches 992, 992, and then the pressure goes up. 996. It's already at 991 now. Again, so either some serious shear and dry air, and this thing's just going to not be that big of a deal, or the models are out of touch. I'm just going to say it. Intensity guidance is where the least amount of skill is. We saw that with Hannah. Remember? That was just a week ago, right? A week ago, Wednesday, Thursday, it was like, tropical depression, maybe a storm into south central Texas, maybe near Corpus. And it darn near made it to Category 2 intensity, and boy, I learned my lesson. I was in Arizona. I was planning on going on to Arizona, and I looked at the intensity guidance, and I kept those plans. And I got behind, and it wasn't enough time for me to leave, even if I did cancel my plans to Arizona for the monsoon. And so I got burned on that. It's much harder to drive to South Texas anyway. And so look what happened. Hannah became almost a Cat 2 hurricane. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is really, really perplexing. The GFS goes on. This is the same time frame, 12Z run, and it takes it up into the Carolinas. Not a real big deal. Tropical storm conditions, miserable weekend, at least the latter half of it, and you get all kinds of problems associated with a tropical storm instead of a hurricane. So real quick, just talking about some impacts. Again, we saw what was happening down here on the southeast part of Cuba. All right, we saw those pictures, the high waves that were coming down there. The swells and the waves are all going to start emanating out. I talked about this yesterday, towards the southeast, through the Bahamas, and a lot of people are already in their cars heading down to the beach. Now, I said it yesterday, can we please get a big fat zero for the amount of deaths from the rip currents and the high surf that's coming? Because even if it's just a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm is going to create rough surf. So, please, especially with the kids, keep them safe, all right? This is not, I said it yesterday, this is not hype, not fear-mongering. Frickin' big waves will kill you. The rough surf, the rip currents, and it's so preventable. Enjoy the water. Go out maybe up to your waist at best, but don't let them be getting too far out there. You're going to have rough surf down there. Come on, do me a favor. I want you to be able to watch these videos, right? Without you, there's no reason for me. And if you get killed in the surf, that's a huge tragedy. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you in terms of impacts up the coast, except what we already know. Sorry, I keep coming in and out. It's all going to depend on the track and the intensity. So here's what we can do about that. Just keep on planning for a Category 1 hurricane. If you live right along the coast, east coast of Florida, probably not so much Jacksonville and Savannah in terms of direct impacts. But if it does crawl right up the coast, we've seen that before. You could get some sustained tropical storm force winds trees down, some power outages. So just plan on a Category 1 hurricane. 70 to 80 mile per hour wind, somewhere in there. That covers your tropical storm into your Cat 1 hurricane range. Maybe the power goes out. Maybe you have some issues with some storm surge, the heavy rain. So plan on a hurricane. But don't worry about a major hurricane or a big-time impact just yet. The good thing is this is moving slow enough. We don't have to worry about it racing in just yet. It may pick up some forward speed, but man, this is a real nail biter for sure. Couple of things to note that, sort of the caveat in all of this, the keep this in mind part. If the intensity dictates a track change back to the east a little bit, and this comes up and stays offshore Florida and comes up the east coast like this. Let's just pretend that we get a track very similar to what I'm drawing here, something like this. The water temperatures, I had to double check. This is just craziness. All right. And let's look at the key, the legend down here, so you know that I'm not like making this up. The yellow all the way over to the right is 26 Celsius and higher. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Right? We can all see and agree Mark is not making things up. 26, 27, 28. Yellow right there. So the yellow is 26 Celsius. 26 Celsius is the threshold for most hurricanes to form and hold their own. There's exceptions, but 26C, that's it. That is the 26 Celsius line. It is. It goes right up to Long Island. And that's 27. That's 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Holy smokes. I have never seen it that warm ever, that far north. 81 degrees. If you got in a boat and came out of Manhattan and went out into the Atlantic there, not even, I don't know, a few tens of miles out, or you got in a boat off of Fire Island, or went east out of Belmar in New Jersey, holy cow. So if this goes up the coast and is a formidable hurricane, which is not out of the realm of possibility, there is at least potential here for some major impacts in the Northeast. Something to just keep in mind. So at least as this comes up, whatever it does, it's going to churn up the water and shave off some of these temperatures, because that's getting it. That's really warm, and I'm being truthful. You can go back years on my videos here that I've been putting these out, and if you want to watch them all, you'll see I've never shown this chart where it was dadgum 81 degrees off the coast of Jersey like that, almost to Long Island. I mean, that is truly remarkable. All right, so what about my plans? I have no idea. Well, I have some idea. If later this evening, it looks like I got to go to Florida, I'm going to go with one of my good friends and colleagues up here. His name is Mike. And we'll get in my truck, and we'll take some equipment, and we'll go to Florida. I can be down in South Florida in 12 hours. Be tired, but I'm not missing another hurricane landfall. Not this year. Otherwise, we'll see what's happening, and I'll be ready for it up here in the Carolinas. We'll set up equipment, and we're going to start doing that tomorrow, and I'll address that in my evening update. It'll be much shorter than this one. And we're just going to have to wait and see, because I honestly don't know. This is very frustrating, because you all want to know what's going to happen from preparations to impacts, etc. So do I. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. I want to know what to expect. And my wife keeps asking me. We have 5 children that live at the house. 2 children up in college in the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. So what do we do? People keep asking me. I'm like, well, yesterday it was a little bit more definitive. Now, not so much. And you can see, I'm looking kind of rough because it's keeping me up at night. I don't know what's going to happen for sure. And I think that kind of honesty, people that want to, I know what's going to, they put their line in the sand. Well, good luck. I hope you're right, because I don't know. And I think that kind of uncertainty, being able to project that, and we kind of embrace the uncertainty and how to deal with it, is important. So stay tuned. I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing. I do know I'm on social media. At HurricaneTrack is Twitter. HurricaneTrack is the brand. Hurricane, T-R-A-C-K, all one word, youtube.com/HurricaneTrack. And now more than ever, if you join up on the crowdfunding effort on Patreon, I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow. I was going to do this anyway. I might have to delay it. I was going to make a video just about what we're doing with Patreon so people get an idea of what it is, right? And whatever. But yes, join up and you get lots of benefits, and including access to all of our cameras when we put them out. It's a way to grow our funding while giving back to not only the crowdfunding group, but to affect the greater good, because we give the information to the Hurricane Center. We work with the media, and it's a win-win situation. It really is, and it is not prohibitively expensive for most levels. So check it out. Patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. And of course, thank you. The most important part is you, whether you're supporting it financially or just by watching and talking about what we're doing. I appreciate all of it. I will be back this evening, not sure exactly what time. Maybe a very brief update if I'm getting ready to jump in the truck and go south. Stay tuned for that. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's the website. HurricaneTrack is the brand. I'll talk to you again this evening.